The woman began to remove her clothes as she sat in her chair, erotically staring into the camera. Jeremy sat staring in awe at the young lady through this computer screen. His heart raced and his forehead began to sweat. There was nothing more in the world that he wanted. He wanted to stay and watch his virtual crush, if only for a few more minutes. "Jeremy," he heard his mother yell from the upstairs, "you're going to be late for work." With a sigh, Jeremy typed his typical goodbye message to Valerie, his favorite gamer e-girl. "I have to go to work now, baby. I'm not sure if you're still going to be streaming when I get back, but if you aren't, just know that I love you." He didn't bother to notice the hundreds of other people in the chat with him, and he wouldn't have cared if he did. Jeremy knew that she would notice him one day if he kept trying. He got up from his chair and ran upstairs, out the door of the basement that he rented from his parents. His mother handed him a prepackaged meal as he walked to the door. As he got into the car, Jeremy put on his favorite Papa's Pizza hat and readied himself for another day of deliveries, dreaming of the day that he'd be able to move on and get a house of his own. When he had enough money to tip her, maybe Valerie would notice him. He wanted nothing else in life than to make her happy. All through his shift, he thought about the perfect gesture to separate himself from all the other men vying for her attention. He thought of a couple ways, but most of them involved using his little pittance he had managed to save over the last few months of his pizza delivery career. He saw what other men were donating on her channel. Hundreds of dollars a night were going to this girl, and there was nothing that he could possibly do to compete with that. All he wanted was for her to say his name like she did for the others. This pattern continued for some time, years in fact. His parents grew more and more disappointed by the month, but Jeremy didn't really care. He knew that one day he would do something to impress her so much that Valerie would one day come to see who he was. They would move out, get their own place somewhere, and then live happily ever after. Jeremy's parents would see that he was worth something. As time went on, Valerie's popularity somewhat diminished. In the few years that Jeremy had been watching her, she had begun to age. After all, she was almost a full decade older than him, but he knew that age didn't really matter. She would come to see that he could give her more than anyone else would. He didn't care if she got old, he would still love her. His spirits rose as he noticed less and less viewers constantly leaving comments and chatting with her. He even took it upon himself to defend his beautiful girl when a few people began to bash her for how she was starting to look. One afternoon, just after Jeremy had gotten out of bed and logged onto Valerie's streaming service, he noticed that he had a new message. He opened it up, assuming it to be some kind of hate mail from one of the trolls he fought off in the last few days. His heart skipped a beat as he saw the name of the sender. It was Valerie. Shaking in anticipation, he opened the message at once, reading every word twice, unable to believe that he had finally been noticed. He hadn't done anything he thought was worth enough to earn her attention. He read the message. "Thank you so much for your support over the last few weeks. I can't believe that it took me this long to message you, but I always get a little nervous when talking to fans as sweet as you. I want you to know how much I appreciate and care about you. Can we have a one-on-one video chat soon? I would really love that." Jeremy jumped out of his chair, laughing and shouting. Yes, he thought. I knew this would happen someday. He thought of the perfect message and sent it. He waited by the computer for the next 2 hours, calling in sick to work. He couldn't risk the possibility of her responding while he was away. He knew that she might not fall in love with him if he weren't available. Jeremy dreaded all the situations where this was ruined, and he wouldn't let it happen. Eventually, a date was set for the first chat. Jeremy sat at his desk, wearing his best clothes that he had. He entered the chat first and waited. After the better part of an hour, Valerie's beautiful image popped up in the chat window. To him, she was the most beautiful girl in the world. Her pink hair, brown eyes, pale skin, everything that Jeremy wanted in a woman. She was wearing a very tight shirt, covering only her breasts and leaving her midriff and muffin top exposed. "Hey, Jeremy, it's good to finally meet you," Valerie said with a giggle and an exaggerated smile. Jeremy sat stunned. He had no idea what to do. Eventually, after a few seconds of silence, he managed to stutter. "Hello, baby. I've waited for this for so long." The two giggled back and forth. Jeremy learned so much about Valerie's current situation. She had been losing subscribers and was getting to the point where she might not be able to pay her rent due to the loss of the donations. Jeremy was upset by the news, and the new couple began to discuss ways that Jeremy could help his new girlfriend. "It's just so hard, but I'm glad I have you around to help me," Valerie said with a smile, expecting Jeremy to offer money or at the very least to help in getting her new subscribers. "Well, I want to help, but I don't know how. I don't have much money at all, and I don't think that there's anything I can give you that would really help you. I love you and want to be with you, but you have to understand I just can't help in that way," Jeremy pleaded. He knew that he had to think of something quick or he would lose his new girlfriend just as quick as he had gotten her. Valerie thought for a moment. She smiled into the camera and began to remove her top, exposing her bra. She began to caress her body and said, "Well, just give me what you can every day. I'll do private shows just for you, whatever you want. Just tell me. All I need from you is your time." "Oh, baby, I knew that you loved me too," Jeremy exclaimed. Over the next few weeks, Jeremy and Valerie chatted when he had free time. There was no money exchanged. Jeremy was destitute and lived within the whim of his parents. His basement was all he had. He'd even left his job at the local pizzeria so that he could spend more time with his new girlfriend. Jeremy had tried to explain to his parents the situation with his love life and how he had no choice but to quit his job. Although his love life was starting to finally take a turn for the better, Jeremy began to feel a little worse every day. He developed a cough and noticed that his joints were starting to ache. It was hard for him to stay awake even during his daily dates with the love of his life. Jeremy didn't care though, as his beautiful Valerie started to look more and more perfect every day. He noticed that she began to take better care of herself now that she had a man to look good for, a man that appreciated her. Her muffin top disappeared, her stretch marks began to go away. She became more toned as her breasts didn't sag as much as they used to. The morning finally came that Jeremy accepted his condition. Unable to move, he called to his mother and father to help him. They rushed down to the basement to find Jeremy lying on his bed, covered in his own excrement and sweat. As they stepped closer to the bed, they looked into their son's sunken eyes and his bald head. His mother screamed as his father ran to call 911. Jeremy laid on his back, staring into the computer monitor at his lovely girl. She looked even more perfect than when he started watching her, years ago. His mother turned to the computer and began shouting, asking how somebody could see this, watch it, and not do anything, not call anyone. Valerie smiled. She looked into the camera as if looking into Jeremy's eyes, cryptically saying, "Jeremy, love of my life, you made me young again." Thanks for sticking around, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave any comments about the story itself or the video format below. I'm always happy to hear criticism and feedback to make everything I do a little bit better each time. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have a good one.